have, by the way, I gave you a shout out. You weren't here in the morning. Told everybody to follow your YouTube channel. And Ben, BTC Sessions, has an incredible YouTube channel where he does tutorials teaching people how to use Bitcoin wallets, how to analyze new projects. I remember that one you were testing a new wallet, and you're like, wait a minute, this looks like a scam that can steal your coins. And you started like analyzing it, and how did that end?
Well, it was basically, I sent money to it, and this is a while ago, so I'm trying to recall, but effectively I checked the backup phrase, and I added it to a bunch of different wallets, and the funds weren't there. And so basically they were pretending that your backup was actually yours, but it wasn't. The receiving addresses were in no way associated with the keys that they gave you. And so I kind of figured out that this wallet was basically just like, oh yeah, you hold your own keys, but it was not that at all, so. Yeah.
All right, yeah, so you gotta be real careful, and one of the only YouTube channels I recommend. And Ben was gracious enough to be doing 2 workshops here, both of them today. They're both more for beginners. The workshops tomorrow are going to be a little more advanced because everyone today is going to be well more informed. And coming up is going to be a workshop on Lightning and fast, cheap payments. And take it away.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for having me. We're going to be talking about Lightning Network. Just before I get started here, by show of hands, who here has used Lightning Network at all? Okay, so we're maybe like 50-50 mix. Okay, we're gonna fix that by the end of today. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about Lightning Network and the perks and trade-offs of various Lightning options, because you can interact with Lightning in a lot of different ways. First, I want to talk really quick about what Lightning Network even is. So, with Bitcoin in itself, to preserve the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, the amount of data and the number of transactions that can be relayed on the network every 10 minutes is constrained. And so this means that when things get busy, users have to choose between speed and cost. You have to set your fee based on how quickly you want that transaction to be officially confirmed, okay? Now the Lightning Network solves this scaling issue without sacrificing decentralization. It is real Bitcoin, okay? It's not a token associated with Bitcoin. You are using Bitcoin itself. And this Bitcoin is locked in a payment channel between peers. So I can lock Bitcoin between myself and another individual. And these channels can be used to relay transactions back and forth instantly for very low cost, with the only real restraint being the liquidity of those payment channels and your internet bandwidth. So yes, you can indeed buy coffee with Bitcoin, despite what many may say. Now, just to dive a little bit deeper into these payment channels, you can think of it in a couple of different ways. But if I were to open a payment channel with, say, a bar, there's a few different ways that you can pay for a number of beers over the course of a night. You could settle up every time a beer comes to the table, or you could open a tab and at the end of the night close that tab. What you're doing with a Lightning payment channel is you're able to transact back and forth with this locked up Bitcoin between you and another peer. And what's actually happening transaction-wise is you and that peer are sending a pre-approved settlement transaction that can be settled to the base layer by either person at any time. So let's say, just for easy numbers, let's say I open up a 1 Bitcoin channel between myself and somebody else. And we're transacting back and forth, and I'm sending 0.1 over to that person, they're sending 0.1 over to me. At the end of the day, when we want to close the channel, if I've sent 0.5 Bitcoin over to that person, what has really happened on those Lightning transactions is I have sent over an approval of, hey, you own half a Bitcoin and I own half a Bitcoin, and either of us can settle that transaction on-chain at any time. And so this allows an infinite number of transactions to happen in between us without ever utilizing the base Bitcoin blockchain, without ever using the base layer, without incurring the fees and bogging down the blockchain with all of those transactions. Because again, we have the credentials to settle at any time we please. Nobody else is in between the two of us that are transacting. And we're not putting our funds at risk in between us, per se. We're gonna keep going a little bit there. Oop, am I connected? Now this is just, actually, I'm gonna go back. Now Lightning has come a long way. I will say that it hasn't been perfect from the get-go, obviously. Network launched in beta in March of 2018, and the initial trials of many users, including myself, were a little clunky. Trying to understand the dynamics of creating channels, balancing liquidity, and ensuring that payments were successfully routed was a lot, even for Bitcoiners that have been around the block. In a few short years, lots has changed. It's now possible to interact with Lightning Network in various ways to take advantage of instant transactions and low fees with very little or zero knowledge and understanding of what's going on under the hood, which is kind of eventually where I think we'd like to be, where you can just use it and you don't have to fully understand everything about it. Now, I'm gonna click here just to make sure you can see this. This is an example of a payment channel. And so you can actually, and I'll click on it in a second here. Actually, let's just get it rolling. Okay, so what you're seeing here is, I want you to imagine that a payment channel between peers is kind of like an abacus where you can move beads from one side to the other. So let's just imagine, for ease of picturing it, that these channels, each one of these beads is a Bitcoin, okay? So 6 Bitcoins between Alice and Bob. But you don't need to just be paying Bob, because if Bob has a payment channel open to Carol as well, you can actually pay somebody down the line. You can do kind of a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and bump the beads all the way down the line to reach your destination. So, as you saw in the little animation there, when Alice wanted to pay Carol, one of these beads got bumped over to Bob, and then in this other payment channel, Bob bumped another bead down to Carol. So, the Lightning Network has become this giant pool of liquidity where transactions can be bumped around very easily between peers, and the people in the middle don't know the originator, and they don't know the end point of where those transactions are going. So it's actually a little boost to your privacy as well. So, it's time to level up. We're going to talk our way through a variety of ways you guys can use Lightning right away. So, first option is a custodial solution. Now, again, this is kind of not the ideal way to interact with Bitcoin, but it'll get you learning the basics of how to use Lightning and how to transact. So custodial Lightning wallets, they take full control of your funds. Again, not ideal. Managing channels and network liquidity is entirely from their end. So you are implicitly trusting these wallet providers not to run off with your money. But the ease of use is basically as simple as it gets. Custodial Lightning wallets typically allow you to download an app and start transacting immediately. In some cases, you may be required to create an account and log in, and any backups that you create are not actually a backup of the keys to your money, but rather information that the wallet provider can use to properly identify your account. Examples of custodial Lightning wallets include Wallet of Satoshi, Blue Wallet. Although Blue Wallet is custodial by default, you can make it non-custodial. And Zebedee. So you can see some of those examples over on the side. We'll be playing around a little bit with that later. Now, step up from there. Non-custodial, however, without a Bitcoin node. And we'll get into exactly the functions of a node in a moment. But for now, non-custodial mobile Lightning wallets, they both allow you to retain your funds and instantly onboard without the need to get into the nitty-gritty of running a Lightning node and managing liquidity. Again, not perfect, but pretty easy to get started. So how this is accomplished can vary from wallet to wallet. And this is a little technical, but sometimes is via a trampoline node. So that means you're connected to one peer, which is the wallet provider, via a Lightning channel, like we saw in the example. And then they have a whole bunch of other connections that you can route your payments through. So you're kind of using that company's Lightning node to route your payments. There's also something called Submarine Swaps, where you're swapping on-chain Bitcoin for Lightning Bitcoin back and forth. I'm not gonna get into the technicals of that, but there's a lot of complex options that basically automate the intricacies from the user experience. So you just see, hey, I've got a Lightning wallet, I've got money in it, and I can spend it. This is perhaps probably the best in terms of ease of use options to get started with Lightning without trading too much off. You own your own money, you can transact immediately, and you don't need to get into the weeds just yet, or ever if you choose not to. Okay, so some great options here include Moon Wallet, Phoenix Wallet, and Breeze Wallet. Now, I was going to do the demo today with Moon Wallet. Fortunately, right now they're having some technical issues in the background. So this kind of goes to show that regardless, this is still very early days for Lightning, so you don't want to put a ton of money in Lightning right off the hop. You want to kind of experiment, and it's meant for smaller payments, at least at the time of doing this video. Now let's pause for a second. The previous slide I mentioned running a node, aka a Lightning node. Let's talk about what a node is in the first place. So a full node is simply hosting a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. That includes the entire history of transactions that have ever been executed on the Bitcoin network and the rules that govern the network. Now, if you are not running a Bitcoin node, you are trusting someone else to do it for you, meaning you're trusting somebody else to feed you the correct information as to the state of who owns what, including yourself. Running a node does a few things for you. It eliminates trust, instead opting for self-verification. So the mantra in Bitcoin, don't trust, verify. It increases your privacy on a network level. So if you're connecting your wallets to your own node, you're not leaking your IP address to third parties through their node. It protects you from third parties trying to change the rules of the system. And so what I mean here is, we saw a real example of this in 2017. All of the biggest companies, 80% of the miners, all piled in and said, hey, we want to change Bitcoin. We want to scale it a certain way. And we want to get rid of all of the voluntary developers and install our own team. And we're going to do this. And this is what Bitcoin is going to be now. Well, that was very much averted through a variety of things. But one of them was people running a node. Because if you're running a node, somebody tries to change Bitcoin. If somebody says tomorrow, now we want there to be 42 million Bitcoin instead of 21 million Bitcoin. If you're running a node, it will ignore those changes. You do not have to go along with them. Even if a majority of people decide that they want to go with that change. It's kind of like if you were voting in an election, and regardless of the outcome of the election, even if the party you voted for lost, you got to follow their policies moving forward. So this is the power of running a node. You basically middle fingers in the air to anybody who says anything different. And then finally, and this is how it ties into Lightning, running a Bitcoin node allows you to run other Bitcoin-related software alongside it, like a Lightning node, being able to establish liquidity and establish connections and payment channels with the peers of your choice. So let's talk about that a little bit. So running a Lightning node. When you're running a Bitcoin node, you can set up a Lightning node alongside it. This allows you to open payment channels with the peers of your choice. You can remove liquidity from the network whenever you need it on-chain, and potentially earn routing fees by relaying transactions through your established connections. So in that animation where we saw Alice paying Carol, but it went through Bob, there's a possibility that Bob was earning a fee for routing that payment. Now, right now, those fees are going to be negligible, very, very tiny. But, in my opinion, if you're starting to set up well-connected nodes now, this early in the game, it could be a meaningful amount of money much later down the road. If you have a very well-connected routing node, and those liquidity lines are set up and maintained very well, it could be something very interesting to look into. But I will say right now, it's negligible. If you're running one of the aforementioned node options, which I'll just go back to right now. So over on the side here, we have obviously Start9. They're going to be chatting. Lex is going to be talking about it a little. There's Umbral, and I've done some videos on that. There's the Nodl, there's my node, there's Ronin Dojo, although I don't think they're leaning towards Lightning right now. Down at the bottom here, you see it's called a Triton. Basically, that's just a Raspberry Pi computer, and it could run really any of those options. So if you're running any of those, then very likely it's bundled with the software that can allow you to run and maintain your liquidity on your Lightning node, okay? Examples of that software, Ride the Lightning is one. I like to use ThunderHub, but it's personal preference. Now, if you do wish to dive down this rabbit hole, I have a very in-depth video on how to do it. You're going to want to dive into first running a regular Bitcoin node and understanding that first, and then getting into Lightning. Before that, you're just going to want to learn how to do regular Lightning transactions, but the info is out there. Now, if you do have a Lightning node, typically that's going to sit on a piece of dedicated hardware at home. You can access that remotely. You don't need to just leave it at home and only interact with it on your home computer. So I'll give you an example of kind of how I interact with mine after I get through this slide here. So when you manage your own Lightning node, you can actually connect to your established liquidity and funds from anywhere in the world. This can be done through apps like Zap and Zeus. These are just mobile apps you can download. And connecting these apps to your own node is often as simple as scanning a QR code or just copy and pasting some general information over from the setting panel on your node. So over here, we see Zap in both instances. This is the Zap Wallet, and it can connect to your node. And you can basically see, you can manage the channels that you have open with different peers. And this was that Alice and Bob comparison I gave you before, where your async is connected to your node, and you can see how much is on your local side and how much is on the remote side. So you can see 30,000 sats over here. It's kind of hard to see up close. 69,000 sats over here. If this channel were to be closed, you would end up keeping the portion that is yours. That's how it would settle. So you can see kind of where the liquidity is set on each of these channels. And that's what you would see on your node as well. So I just want to give you a quick example of how I interact with my Lightning node. So I have a lot of channels set up. I've got liquidity with lots of different peers. And I often do interviews on my show. I'll do panel shows, and I upload those. I have them on YouTube, but I also upload them as audio only. And there is a way to get your podcast on various apps, one that I mentioned before, Breeze Wallet, as a way where users can opt to pay per minute that they listen in Bitcoin. And these payments go directly to your own Lightning node. So you can see live payments streaming in. When I go and I look at I'm using Zeus, it's connected to my own node. I can see 10 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, 40 cents from people that are listening live to my show and paying to stream it. And I can access that. As this summer I was traveling in Greece, my node is back home in Canada. I'm able to see those payments streaming into my own hardware on the other side of the globe, instantly access that liquidity and use it to purchase anything I like. So it's pretty crazy how far this stuff is coming so quickly. And it's very interesting how I think it'll be implemented in the future. So we're going to do a quick little recap of what we just talked about. So there's many ways to interact with Lightning, depending on your preferences. You have custodial options, non-custodial without a node. You can run your own Lightning node, and you can connect remotely to your Lightning node. Now, there is a lot to learn here. Of course, I have a ton of videos on basically every piece of software that we chatted about today. So you can take a look for that. But I want your main takeaway from this is one step at a time. Don't worry about being perfect. I just want you to focus on gradually improving over time, okay? And I'm gonna take some questions from everybody about this, and then we're gonna dive into actually using Lightning. So the way this is broken up, presentation, some questions, then we're gonna get our hands dirty, and then we'll get some more questions. By the way, if you're trying to find me on Twitter or YouTube or anything, that's all here. But let's do some questions first. So, oh yeah, perfect, okay. So, any hands, anything about...
I will have the questions.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, right here. We'll get a mic over to you in a second. We've got one right here.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello?
So I give this together.
Oh yeah, just hold up in your other hand. No, speak in there.
Okay. Yeah, I have some questions regarding setting up a seed for the master seed for, because some of the apps have 12 words, some have 24.
Yeah.
And I see that Lightning apps they're not compatible as far as some, it's called AI seed or something for Lightning.
Yeah, so Lightning, the backup is a little bit different in the way that this is done. So a Lightning channel is basically a multi-sig contract. So either person on either end can actually close the channel at any time. So a backup using a seed is not exactly how that's executed. So you will have a seed to the wallet within your node. Okay, so for instance, I did a video on how to use a Umbrel node. And when you set that up, there's a native Bitcoin wallet on that node, as with most. And that will have a regular 12 or 24 word seed. However, your Lightning wallet will have a backup file that is downloaded. And that basically has the information on all of the channels that are open there. And so, depending on the implementation, you can recover and regain access to those channels, but depending on it, it may be that they instantly close when you use that file to recover. So like if you lost your Umbrel node and you pulled in, my understanding is that the recovery file will simply just settle out all of the liquidity in these channels and bring it back to your Bitcoin wallet. So yeah, you're right, and the backup is totally different. It's not just a seed. There's a file that's required there as well. Do you have more questions down that rabbit hole, or is that good?
It's okay,
Yeah?
yeah.
Okay. Others?
Yeah, I was wondering concerning the different ways of running a node. For running a actual node with managing all the channels, is that something that is something that regular people are going to use in the future, or now in the future when, or is that more for big companies or smaller companies in business?
I would say the honest answer is most people are probably not going to be managing their liquidity, but also most people aren't yet learning about Bitcoin. So by saying most people, that may not apply to the people in this room because you're here, you're asking questions, you're learning early. So some of you may end up running your own nodes, managing your own liquidity, doing all of those things. Down the line, certainly, I mean, we see the trends of people kind of defaulting to the easiest option. That's not necessarily a great thing. And I don't think that's necessarily the default for anybody in this room. But let's see, how do I answer that? I think most people are going to end up using a non-custodial mobile option, and I hope that's at the very least the trend. But I think people that are here and that are this early kind of asking questions about Lightning, I think it's definitely possible. And you don't have to have a lot of money to be doing this. And not only that, but the channels that you establish, even if they're low value right now, they may be very high value in the future as Bitcoin continues to take over the world. So the answer is, right now, I think a lot of people in this room would be capable of it with enough of a deep dive. Down the line, yeah, I think people will default to whatever's easy.
I just would like to add just a few words about that question. It's not really like a custodial wallet versus full node with a full Lightning node with any kind of function. There is a lot of granularity. For example, one point is that you hold your keys for signing the Lightning channels. And that's one thing that, for example, many wallets like Phoenix or Moon, they will let you own your keys for Lightning. Then there is all the part about managing the actual backups and complex stuff like we discussed before. Backing up the channel state is complex. So if you use Phoenix, you just don't care and they will just do it for you. And they will keep it encrypted, of course, with your keys client side. Then there is routing, for example, what is called trampoline node. Right now there are some Lightning wallet that will actually not create a routing path, but it will ask a third party to make it for you. So there is a lot of granularity. So as Ben said, the point is that most people hopefully at least will keep the keys for Lightning on their own device, but they may delegate some functions of increasing complexity to a trusted third party, which also will fail gracefully. That means that if you use a custodial and the custodial fails, you lose your money. If you use a centralized Lightning counterparty like the async server for Phoenix and they fail, you still have your money, and probably in the best case scenario you also have your channels that you can still use depending on the failure mode. So there is a lot of granularity there, I would say. Mm-hmm. Also the UX is very different from spending and receiving. If the question is, will more people be able to fund their own channels in order to spend, I think that UX there is very simple. Think about a prepaid, preloaded debit card. You make a bank wire transfer once, which is low and expensive. Then you have your amount on your Revolut or whatever. Then you spend online until it's over. Lightning is the same. It's very simple. You do one on-chain transaction, which is more slow and expensive, and then you spend. The difficult part, just like with credit card, is receiving. That's really tricky. When you set up a business and you want to receive Lightning payment, that's something that most business operator will probably try to delegate partially to these liquidity providers and external parts, but not like the keys, probably just, they will use third-party services like Thor or others to pay for liquidity.
What I was talking about in terms of trampoline nodes and those kind of in between, that was kind of that middle step, that level 2, that non-custodial but no node option. Trampoline nodes are in some of those instances what is being used, like Phoenix Wallet, that's what they do. So there's liquidity between you and Phoenix, and then they manage the rest of the channels. And so with an option like that, or Breeze, you have a Bitcoin address that you receive Bitcoin to, and that then opens up a channel with you so that you can spend to and from, and they add a little liquidity in there. But if it's been a while, they may close those channels, and you may find that you need to pay another on-chain fee. So today we're going to play around with some of that. We'll see. I did want to do Moon Wallet today again because of the way that they've done it is very easy, but we'll see how that's going. Question here?
I have a kind of advanced question. We have a taproot happening in a month, and it will allow like new, better channels. So I'm wondering, like, if I was to start a routing now, whether I should consider wait for the taproot, or what's the timeline on that? Thanks.
This is my conundrum right now too, because I have a lot of channels open. Basically, just the efficiency and the privacy of what's happening on chain is helped. I believe the timeline for it to activate is November, right?
It is November, but the timeline to rewriting Lightning code in order to create a channel funding transaction and punishment transaction that use TypeScript completely, that's way slower. There are already people working on that, but it's not trivial. If you imagine the way Lightning was initially conceived and also standardized was with a standard script without even the mini-script policies. It was not compatible with any of the standards that came up later of mini-script and that are now Rust Bitcoin, and let alone TypeScript, which was not even conceived. So we will need some time for people to adapt the transaction that funds the channel and the transaction that update the channel to scripts that are compatible with Taproot, and then we'll adopt that, and then we will see that. An interesting part of your question, I think, is that routing will not be affected. That means that if I have a node-style channel with you, and you have a node-style channel with BTC session and so on, and you and him change to a new kind of a channel, I don't need to know that to route. The Lightning routing is completely independent. It's not the global consensus. I can send you an HTLC transaction that says, I give you this money if you prove me that you have a pre-image that he gave you. What kind of channel you have is unimportant to our transaction. So hopefully the Lightning network can upgrade to Taproot style of channel, and even in the future to L2, without you having, if you don't want to, without you having to close your channels and open again. So in theory, if your counterparty wants to stay open with you, you can use a legacy channel for years and keep routing and keep paying and receiving. And the other people around you will upgrade locally and not globally, which is nice.
It'll probably be like when you see a legacy address, Bitcoin address nowadays, you're like, what the hell? But you can still send to it, and it doesn't affect you in the end. So, but again, for those that were around as SegWit was implemented, it took a long time, and there's some wallets just added SegWit like in the past calendar year, which is insane to me. But it is what it is, and people can choose when they want to upgrade, and that's kind of the beauty of Bitcoin remaining backwards.
It's 2090, and people are asking Coinbase to adapt to Taproot.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. So, more questions? Any other lightning questions before we dive into hands-on?
This is speak and this is.
I'm just wondering, what's your experience running a Lightning node over Tor? Because for me, it's been sort of unreliable. I think we have two wallets, Zap and Zeus. Zeus is the one that I get the best results from. So I was wondering if it's the same for you.
Yes, it's not the most reliable. So if you're talking about the node itself, I haven't had too many issues with that. But yeah, like I use Zeus, and absolutely from time to time, like I'll boot it up and it'll be connection timeout or something. I'll close it down again and reboot it, and it will come up. But you're not alone in experiencing that, and that's just kind of comes with the territory of not only being so early, but trying to keep your privacy. The node itself, have you had connectivity issues with just like the node itself turning off or anything?
No, the node is fine. It's
Okay.
more about the wallet.
Okay, yeah, it's just the remote access. Yeah, not much more I can say. Yeah, absolutely, it's a problem.
Also, I think it's important to distinguish the reason you're using Tor for both. So on your node, using Tor is very important, because otherwise, in order to connect with you and open channels, they have to know your IP. And again, as in the panel this morning, your IP is basically your name, one phone call away to your ISP. But when you have your node, your Lightning node on Tor, so you can actually share your onion address to open and close channels, then the way you connect from your ZEOS to your node is not that important privacy-wise. The main reason that a pre-packaged node like Umbrel or BTC or Raspberry Blitz, they use Tor to connect you with your ZEOS, it's just actually more practical is because of static IP. If you don't use Tor, you may have, every time you switch up your router, you may have problems. So I think it's just as simple as that. The pairing devices on Tor is better for reliability, worse, is better for, shutting down and firing up again, but it's worse for actual reliability. But if you connect HTTPS from your ZEOS to your node, that's privacy-wise fine. You are encrypting on your device and you are decrypting on your node. Tor will be way better if people start to connect ZEOS to sync to counterparties, but that's not great because ZEOS will not keep the private keys. So you're basically trusting your money. It's custodial in that way. So it's a different question. I think if you want to connect ClearNet from your cell phone to your node, that's fine, as long as your Lightning node has a Tor ID and not the IP ID.
Cool. Any last questions before? Yep.
A while back when I was looking at Lightning Network, I came across Watchtowers. What's the state of Watchtowers, and could you describe them, because I always get confused?
Yeah, and maybe I'll get some help from Giacomo on this too, but the effective reason for having Watchtowers is feasibly somebody could try to settle on the main chain with an earlier state of where the liquidity lies. So let's say I have a channel open to you for 1 Bitcoin, and I gradually make transactions. And at first it says I own 1 Bitcoin, you own 0. And then I make a transaction for 0.1 and 0.1, and eventually it's half and half. If you go offline, I could feasibly try to close that channel with an earlier state saying that I still own the full Bitcoin and you have nothing, okay? Watchtowers basically kind of watch the state of the channel, and if I try to do anything malicious, I run the risk of losing funds. But Giacomo, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think there will be basically like 4 stages for Watchtower. The first stage is you fire your own Watchtower, which means I have my node, but I also want another node run by me on a less secure environment because it doesn't have the keys, just the copies of the update transactions. So you have a very secure node, which is a hot wallet with a Lightning node. And then you have another node somewhere else for more reliability with a Watchtower. The second node, it will not contain the keys to sign, just the channel update, state updates to prevent theft, to prevent fraud and all state broadcasting. This is the first use, which is already possible, especially NND as this Watchtower, but also C-Lightning, I think, as a Watchtower experiment. The second would be the widespread use of a third-party watchtowering or tower watching for you. And that's a little bit more tricky because these old channel state updates, right now, they are toxic waste. It means that if I give you my previous state, you can use it to defend me, but you can also use it to attack me, because you can try to use that to try to mess with my counterparty that will punish me taking my money. So you can actually damage me. So it's a little bit of sensitive data to give around. So there are some schemes to do this securely, but I'm not aware of any service that does this in a very trustless way. Then the third stage will be having that not just trustless but decentralized. Like you open a channel and you say everybody can watch this transaction and step in if I get robbed and take a fee out of that. There are early on during the discussion about Lightning in 2016, I remember people conceiving this kind of stuff, but very far from implementation. And the last stage will be actually this kind of Watchtower also doing other stuff for you. For example, again, you have to back up your seed, but also your channel states. So what about a service that you encrypt client side, you give the encrypted chunks of your channel backup to everybody in the network who cares, and then you pay via Lightning to recover when you need it. I mean, this kind of very advanced. There is one project called Asai that is basically a watchtower which also backs you up. That said, it may be that all the discussion is useless, because it may be that by the time we have this advanced ecosystem for watchtowers, we also have L2 and any private, which makes the channel update not toxic waste. So you can post it on Facebook. I mean, it doesn't matter who has it. It's not dangerous. So you can just, the problem is just redundancy and not privacy with that, and not security. So you could have a situation where L2 makes all this watchtower discussion a little bit less relevant.
Cool. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, all right. So what we're going to do next, and we're going to take a couple minutes for people to be able to get a couple apps on their phone, if you choose to. One is going to be Blue Wallet, if you don't already have it. We're going to download Blue Wallet, which you can just find in either app store. The other would be Breeze, B-R-E-E-Z. So, if you can, for sure Blue Wallet, and then also Breeze, if you can. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. If you can't find it, just come up and find me.
You should pull it up on the screen.
Oh yeah. So Breeze is the top one there, that's how you spell it. Just B-L-U-E, exactly how it should be spelled. So yeah, we'll take a couple minutes, get that downloaded, and then we'll do, I'm basically going to call on some of the Bitcoiners in the audience to help out with this as well, just so that we can get everybody doing their first Lightning transactions, seeing how creating an invoice and receiving a transaction is. I'll gladly send over a few sats to each person just to kind of get things rolling. Any Bitcoiners that are in here, if you want me to send over some sats so you can send sats to other people in the audience, just come up and I'll send over a few. And that's it. I'll give you guys like 5 minutes to kind of get yourselves all downloaded and set up, and then I'll walk you through. And I think we're going to need the camera over here too. Okay. Cool. Show of hands, who has Blue Wallet downloaded now? Okay, we're doing all right. Okay. Okay. So, I'm gonna get going on this. If you have Blue Wallet downloaded, it's gonna look a little bit different for you right off the hop. And that's because obviously you haven't already set up wallets. You're probably gonna have something in the middle of the screen that says add wallet or create wallet. If you've used Blue Wallet before, instead of that button, there's a little plus sign in the top right. Either way, can anybody tell me, just because obviously I don't have it in front of me, what does it say on your main screen if you've just downloaded Blue Wallet? Does it say add new wallet? Okay, add wallet, perfect. So everybody's gonna tap that, and I'm gonna hit the plus sign, and it'll show you the same thing as what I'm seeing right here. So you're gonna give that wallet a name, whatever you want. I'm just gonna call it test, and you're going to pick Lightning, okay? Now I was saying before that Blue Wallet by default is custodial. If you were not wanting Blue Wallet to be custodial, you can connect to your own node in this screen, and that's where it says connect to your LND hub. I'm not going to be doing that right now because obviously not everybody has their nodes up and running and synced and liquidity and all that. But just so you know, this is where that would happen, okay? And the way Blue Wallet handles it is it actually creates a segregated account that basically just uses the liquidity of the node, but will segregate it and will have a zero balance to start. But it prevents you from having to prevents you from having to generate or create channels and everything like that. So you could technically be like an Uncle Jim to all your friends and family, and they could connect to your node for some liquidity if they chose to. But regardless, you name your wallet, you click Lightning, and you're just gonna hit create down at the bottom. Okay, this would be, and again, I don't mind showing this right now because I'm not gonna use this in the end, but this is your wallet backup. You can save this text down below by copying it and pasting it wherever you wanna save it. But as I said, this is a custodial wallet, so that information is basically just for Blue Wallet to know which account was yours, okay? Once you've done that, and if you want to save it somewhere, if you're going to be using this more, you can hit OK, I've saved it. So this is going to create a brand new wallet for you. It should say 0 sats, and to get into that wallet, you just tap on it. Oh, great. Already. API error. Okay, so this is your Lightning wallet. Very simple. You've got a receive and send button at the very bottom. If you hit receive, again, it asks you if you've saved your backup. Yes. And this is where you would create an invoice. Now, we're going to be, just a show of hands in the audience. Yep, that's right. So this is where you create an invoice to receive a Lightning transaction, okay? Now, different wallets handle this differently, and it's going to shift over time. Right now, Lightning is invoice-based, okay? So that means that you need to request a specific amount in order for somebody to send to you. That is rapidly changing, and there are things called Lightning addresses that are gradually being implemented, and Lightning addresses will effectively look like an email address, okay? So it might be hello@btcsessions.ca or something like that, and it would be linked to your own node, and you could give out that information, and somebody would be able to send you a Lightning payment without requiring an invoice, or at least that's what it would look like to the end user. But for right now, using Blue Wallet, it's going to be invoice-based, okay? Just know that'll change over time. So, just so I know, Bitcoiners in the audience, how many Bitcoiners in the audience will be able to maybe help send like 100 sats to a few people around? I know sats are precious, but thank you guys. I appreciate it. I will also be helping with this. Okay, so what I'm going to get you guys to do, those that are brand new and trying this for the first time, I just want you to type in 100 sats, which is about 6 cents. And you can add a description if you want, I'm not going to. And you're just gonna hit create invoice. And that's gonna bring up a QR code. Now, challenge to Bitcoiners in the audience. Can you scan this and send me 100 sats? Is it scanning? Anybody got it? It might be too far away. If anybody wants to come over here and do it.
I'm sending to you, right? I should click send, right?
Yeah.
You're receiving and I'm sending, yeah?
Yeah.
Send you double.
Okay, perfect. So we got somebody to scan it. There we go. Okay. So I just received 100 sats. Thank you. We're going to send you guys 100 sats around the audience. So if you need to receive right now, can you put up your hand, and some of our trusty Bitcoiners will come around and send some sats, okay? I'm gonna swing over to you guys here.
You want money? I'm giving out free money. There you go. Yeah, I'm writing down the money. There you go. Sorry, get that. 1 second. Here, let me have it. Sometimes the lighting is a bit awkward. There we go.
All right. Anybody else that needs quick? Oh, here we go.
So when you receive mine, you have to note that I put it.
Sorry.
Somebody there?
I send you 100 sets. I write a note.
Guys, somebody is still begging for money?
It's more for your own. All right. So you understand? Anybody else? I think most people have gotten some sats. Okay. So up next, I've got a challenge for all of you. Is I want you to try sending and receiving to the people beside you. Okay? So I'm going to go through this. I've got a secondary wallet here that I was sending out of as an example. Okay? So, just to reiterate, if you're receiving, you just hit receive, you type in an amount, and hit create invoice. However, if you are sending, you hit the send button, and you're going to need to hit the scan button, which is just right beside what says invoice. That will open up your camera. When you do it the first time, it may ask you to have access to your camera. Just hit yes. And then it will fill in the information from the invoice created by the other person. So we're going to test this as creating an invoice and scanning.
Can you send me some?
Yeah, I can send you some. Absolutely.
So I have some back. Yeah, all right. Oh, that's all right. Done. Done. Perfect. Thanks. Yeah. All right.
If anybody needs help doing a transaction, just flag me down, hands in the air, whoever needs it.
It's fine to send it around to test it.
We had maybe some problem. I don't know if the lamps in the.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, let's see.
Nothing. I entered the 40s.
Yeah. Oh, maybe the lamps.
Maybe it's a bit weird.
Everybody
Might
else.
be my screen, maybe something like that.
I don't know. That's really odd. Can you turn up your brightness, maybe?
Yes, but I think they were so small that below one whole set.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that before. Everybody else scans instantly.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
try. Have you tried closing that and creating a new invoice?
No.
Not matter, but depending on the transaction that reduces to recognize the name and stuff.
Yeah, so I have to choose who I send. Because I only have 4.
Let me try that one.
Yes?
Okay, Bruce. Can you scan this and then you
Is there like a something on?
Yeah.
Is there like an extra film on the screen?
Yeah, it might be this one. It might be.
It might be. I don't know. That's really weird. I don't know why it's not. So the other thing.
Okay, there's one other thing I want to show you guys, and this is what you guys are going to do as a workaround, okay? Sometimes you're not right in front of somebody. You can't scan anything. So, let's see what that would look like. So, if I want to create an invoice and somebody isn't in front of me with a camera, I can do something here. I can hit receive. I can create an invoice for, say, 100 sats. So this obviously brings up a QR code, but down below it, the invoice is represented as a string of digits. I can hit copy, and I can text that, send it to anybody that I like. So I'm going to send it, low-key, to Stefan here. I think you could. I don't have iPhone, but probably.
to me and I'll
pay it.
Okay.
Show me paying it.
Okay. So hold on, I'll tell you.
got
what-
it?
Okay, so I just texted this invoice to Stefan.
Maybe I'll show it on let's see.
Okay.
Just as an example, so if I'm going to hit send, and I'm going to paste it out of my clipboard, and it's showing the request for 100 sats. So show up your, so I've just pasted the invoice, and now we're going to show me paying it. Watch me pay, and pull that up on screen, and boom, see?
Nice.
So,
Okay, so that string of digits that was down below in the invoice, you can message that to anybody and they'll be able to pay up from anywhere in the world, okay? So we just had Stefan pay me without needing to scan the QR code. All he had was those digits at the bottom of the invoice, okay? So if we had somebody having a problem scanning, I think he had like a privacy film over his screen, so it wasn't scanning easily. But if you send that invoice as text to somebody, it will work just as good. So this is an example of a custodial Lightning wallet. Again, not ideal, but at least you get the idea of how to actually transact. All right, this is kind of like a first step. Oh, okay, great, I used Lightning. I sent somebody money, I received money, fantastic. I'm gonna show you guys a non-custodial Lightning wallet, and I'm going to show you that you can fund it with a regular Bitcoin transaction. I just wanna make sure I'm not pulling up something I don't want to here. Okay.
In the meantime, just because Tone pointed it out to me when we used this kind of non-custodial wallet in another workshop, these things like Submarine Swaps in and out, they are very fancy, very nice. They could be used trustlessly, but right now they're expensive. Mm-hmm. So follow this stuff, but be mindful because somebody from the workshop was actually micro-wrecked by the fact that these guys are asking for a huge percentage of fees to do this service. So be mindful, caveat emptor, this swap in and out can be expensive.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Breeze Wallet. This is a non-custodial Lightning wallet. You can fund it with a regular Bitcoin transaction. So if you have Bitcoin in a regular wallet and you want to start using Lightning, you can do that very easily. And I'm just going to kind of walk through what this would look like, but effectively you can hit receive and it gives you a few options. Obviously they have some sort of a link with an exchange where you can buy, but you can receive via Invoice, which would be Lightning Network, or you can receive via Bitcoin address. And when I hit this, it's going to give me a deposit address that will then deposit into my Lightning balance, okay? And just like a regular Bitcoin wallet, QR code, address down below, there's a copy button in the top right, which I can copy. And then I'm gonna open up I've got a non-custodial. So this is Blue Wallet, this is a regular Bitcoin wallet. And I've just copied the address from Breeze, which I can paste in. And I'm going to send over 20 bucks, okay? I can set my fee, on-chain fee. I'm not super worried about it being fast. I'll just hit next and send. Okay, so I just sent $20 to Breeze, and I can see the notification popped up and it says, hey, this many sats have landed in your wallet. It says there's your transaction ID, I can watch it. And what this looks like within the wallet is it says Bitcoin transfer. Oh wait. Sometimes you need to refresh. But it says, as soon as it settles on the blockchain, as soon as there's a confirmation, it will show up here as, hey, there's a new deposit into your Lightning wallet. And then I can transact regularly back and forth between different wallets. all the funds here already have been converted into Lightning available funds, and I can transact between various different Lightning wallets. I just want to kind of give you guys an idea that the experience across wallets is similar. You just need to know where to look. So this is another Lightning wallet. This is a custodial option called Zebedee, but the same lessons apply. So I can request 100 sats, and I can hit create invoice, and the same thing happens. I get a QR code, or I can copy the request, and I can jump back over to say Breeze. Breeze auto detects that I have an invoice, and it'll say, hey, do you want to approve this? And I can just hit approve. See it in the background. Okay, so that was successfully sent. I jump back to Zebedee and I can see payment received. So it's the same invoicing mechanism that you use to receive funds. I was speaking earlier, and I want to show you one other thing here on Zebedee. I was speaking earlier about the idea of Lightning addresses. And Zebedee is one of the first ones that have implemented this. I can hit my profile here. But you can see that down below here, you see BTC sessions at zbd.gg. And that's a Lightning address. That means I can give that information to people and they can send me Lightning payments. I can even copy it, and I can actually go back to Blue Wallet, and I'll do this off screen. But I can hit send. I believe Blue Wallet has implemented it. Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of the wrong one. Breeze. So I can hit send and Breeze, and I can paste my Lightning address, and it says, up at the top, it says, pay to BTC sessions at cbd.gg. I can type in the amount after the fact, hit continue, and then send. So this is kind of where Lightning is headed, where you'll just be able to say, hey, here's my Lightning address, and you can just make a payment. And I can already see, and I have a default response anytime somebody pays to that address. But same thing applies here. If I go back out, I can see that I just received a 100 sat payment 1 second ago. So Lightning is ever evolving. It's going to change a lot. It has changed a lot in 3 years since it hit beta in 2018, and it will continue to change. Soon you'll see what's known as offers. So you'll have a static Lightning QR code that you can post anywhere. You don't need to create a new QR code every time you receive. It will preserve privacy. It will allow you to receive payments from anybody, and things are moving very, very quickly. So, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.